Good morning, everyone, or good afternoon if you're dialing in from the East Coast or somewhere else in the world. Welcome to the monthly 11:11 Living Our Values. I'm Amy Johnson, and we come together here once a month on the 11th of the month at 11 a.m. Pacific time to talk about what it means to live our values. And we have some exciting and engaging conversations and don't always know where we're going to go with them. But today we have a specific topic that I'm excited about. We're going to be talking about values and reviewing our past year through the lens of our values. And then what does that mean for 2024? Because we are in the 11th day of this new year, 2024. So I feel excited about this year. I feel open to possibilities. Does anyone else feel that way? Who else might feel that way? Give me just a wave. Yes, a thumbs up.
Yeah.
It feels like there's some really good, exciting opportunities out there. I don't know exactly what they are, but the energy is positive. And I'm looking forward to that. And I also know that it's important for me to be in alignment to be able to access those possibilities. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. Because even with all those possibilities out there, I can sometimes spin in cycles, whether it's in my head or feel like I'm stuck or don't know which way to go. So I don't know, has anyone else felt that way? Did we ever felt like you're spinning in circles? Not sure
On
in
a daily basis.
a daily basis, right? It can
Yeah,
be
no,
on
it's
our,
a challenge.
yeah, well, how to wake up. It could be in our work. It could be in a creative project. It could be in a personal relationship. In many different ways, it could happen. So what we're going to talk about today is going to be a way to put a pause in that motion. Because the more we cycle, the faster it goes and the more familiar it becomes to be in a spin cycle. So we have to put a pause in there, just like you have to stop your machine sometimes if you're in the spin cycle in the wash, just stop it. You have to pause it because if not, it's just going to keep going. And that's what we're doing today. We're going to talk about what does it mean to have an annual values review, because I know I'm not alone. You're not alone in this spin cycle kind of mentality that can take us over. We receive so much information constantly that also kind of revs up the spinning out as well. So, well, the annual value review is not so much a practice as it is an opportunity to reconnect and realign with what's important to you, to kind of get into that heart space and celebrate who you are. And we approach that with this project, doing this with that intentionality, I would say, because we want to enter this new year with purpose, with clarity, with intention. So there's a lot of talk about goal setting and when it comes to the new year. And we're going to talk about what it means to set the right goals. Now, because the right goals feel good. The right goals are the ones that help us know that we're on the right path because they align with something that's really matters to us, which is our core values. So before I go any further, I just want to welcome all of you and just ask for a quick check-in from everybody, just a minute or two saying hello if you want to, and what brought you here today. So let's go around and do that quickly. And we can do it popcorn style. Christina, do you want to start? You're already unmuted.
Sure. Yes. I have had quite of a spin cycle year, as Amy knows well. I am trying to really reestablish my core values, having been left by my husband, who I was with for 33 years. It has put me in a mode of stepping back and really looking at what who I am, how to ground myself, and moving forward. Not to be a victim of the past, but rather trying to figure out what is important to me, and the values that I want to embrace and work on and strive for going forward. And that starts, it's a good year 2024 to move toward that. And even though initially in last year it was a kickstart for this, I'm glad to just really kind of realign and reestablish what those values are. And without speaking out loud on this, I'm not sure I would propel myself forward without being accountable. So Amy was thoughtful always, uh, of where I am and where things are. And I think being here today, it will help me in this new journey
Yes.
that I'm on. so,
Yeah.
so that's where I am, and I'm glad to be
Thank
here
you.
today. And I'm coming from I'm in Marin County, so I guess north of most of you. But yeah,
Yeah.
so
I'm so glad you're here. And it is a very helpful opportunity
yeah,
to like as you said, reestablish, get grounded, and even reflecting on last year that was difficult, you'll begin to see how much you were in alignment with your values, and that is
yeah,
important too, because even in those times that are really challenging to us and put us in a bit of struggle, staying in alignment with our values is key, and we learn a lot about ourselves through that.
yeah.
And we may
So,
involve our values too. So all of it is being in the divine moment, right? And being right where you
mm,
need to be. So I'm glad you're here.
thank you. Yeah, thank you. And surprisingly, I'm feeling pretty much more grounded, perhaps, than I had been in my past relationship.
Good.
So I think it's caused reevaluation, and I'm looking forward to it. So I'm glad to be here.
Me
Thanks, Amy.
too. Christine, do you want to say hello?
Hello, everyone. I'm Christine Harper. Sorry, I have a little cold. So, one of the things that I really took away from last year is when we talked about values, one that I latched on to was self-care. And I ended up doing a course, if you want to call it that, on meditation and self-care, meditation and journaling. And it was very well, it went very well. And then recently I spoke to a group um, of parents of children and adults with autism, which I don't know anything about that community because I don't have anybody in my family or friend group that is autistic. And so I talked to them about self-care. And I realized, I said, you know what, even though I don't know what you're going through, I know how valuable self-care is to me. And I'm going to show you one thing that you can do. And so it was very well received. And I thank you for steering me in that direction.
Mm, thank you, Christine. I'm so glad you're here. You've contributed and added so much to our conversation. So I am happy you're here. And who else would like to jump in and say a quick hello? I think I don't know if Terry, why don't you go?
There it is. Oh, hi. It's been a great new year. I am liberating myself from the taxi job I've had for my sister and the target job I've had for my sister. I've been the target of many accusations that are untrue. And this week, I liberated myself from 2 taxi tasks, and someone else did it for me. And that was success.
Yeah.
So I one of the things sisters have the capacity to do is figure out exactly what your values are and how to offend you through those. And one of my values is honesty. And she's accusing me of stealing from her almost at every turn. And people who she accuses me of that to call me up and say, "What's this about?" And I'm just floored that it's about what she says it's about, because there's no basis for it. But since she's decided that's her thing right now, I'm keeping my distance until a time when I feel safe. So that covers self-care and seeing myself the way I want to see myself, and um, having her figure it out for herself.
Right. And even honesty for yourself, right?
Yeah.
Because it's painful to be honest when people in our lives aren't who they say they are, or aren't treating us with the same either kindness or respect or dignity or values that we hold for them. And so the self-honesty to be able to admit when there's a deal breaker or somebody's behaving with a record that isn't so trustworthy, as a good
Yeah.
friend says.
Yeah.
That's that self-honesty, instead of just saying, oh, just sweep it under the rug and get yourself into a much more difficult situation.
Yeah.
So
It is teaching people how to treat you.
right. And the honesty, the way we talk about values here, but values are, when you think of honesty, you want to be honest. You think of values as a bridge between like who we are and the outside world. It's also a bridge to our highest and most divine self. They connect us to our most divine self. So values go both ways. And that was an example of that. When you said honesty, we think of honesty being honest to other people. I live my life in an honest way. I am out there in the world honestly. It's also about being self-honest and honest to ourselves, and looking inward with that same reverence towards honesty. So I take that moment to use that as an example of how values get to work both ways in that regard. And let's see, Jude, do you want to check in? Or are you not in a place to do that? You can just,
Can you circle back to me?
sure.
Thank you.
Absolutely. And Pebbles, did you want to say a quick hi? Or say, you can type in the chat if you want to as well, but we're glad you're here. Okay. All right. Well, thank you all for being here and checking in. It's so important to do this. Oh, Constance, I missed you. You're right in front of me. I'm so sorry.
Hi there, I'm Constance, and Amy, I appreciate all the work you do around values. It's really great to have that as a pinpoint of focus. And I'm here because I want to get a little more clarity around the values for my company, and because I'm tweaking and revamping the structure this year, and I think it would help to apply the work to my company and have the values more specific. Thanks.
Thank you. And Jude, do you want to say something now? If not, we can circle back later. I'm going to start to go into the values work.
Yeah, I'm just a really quick hi everyone. Nice to be here. You know, it's interesting. The only thing I really want to say is that I really feel more my values than I think about them, you know, like what they are, and does this fit into that? And I know I've shared this before. But I feel more and more the more conscious I become as I navigate this life. They become richer, you know, like they become more vibrant for me. Like Amy, I know you know this, and I heard Terry talk about liberation. Today is a huge day of liberation for me. Um, and and I feel like the value that keeps coming to me is inspired living. And I just keep, you know, living into inspiration that is allowing me to live more freely and liberated. And really, you know, that one value, when I think about it, really, I think I have to kind of do a little shuffling, because that really is one of those that lives in all of my values. Like I just always want to live inspired. And Yeah. And today is also a day of another one of my values, which is just presence and being really present inside myself as I step outside of a big comfort zone, and share with kind of, well, at least the Facebook world, but share my story. So I feel really grateful to have the values that I can rely upon as, that blueprint, that thing that always has me checking in, not just mentally, but inside. Like, does this feel of integrity with the values that I say I'm showing up as?
Right.
So that's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Jude. And they are that blueprint. I appreciate you saying that. And I also heard that you were taking an action today that is courageous and being more visible in something like Facebook. And our values can really help us enhance those types of actions because they can be that support for us. And that you called it a blueprint. They're part of our identity. So that gives us when we honor them and bring them to the consciousness. And Christina, you talked about this too, where we're not just keeping it inside in our head, but we actually vocalize what our values are and we actually talk about them. They, Judith, you said, they become more vibrant. They become that much more alive and part of us. And they're our identity. They're part of who we are. And for something that is so intrinsic to our identity, we don't talk about them very much in our world. And so that's why we created this space, because they're there and they're operating all the time, but it's not elevated to a conversation. And then when we do that, it offers us these amazing, an inner compass is one way we talk about it, is that there's this way to navigate difficult situations, ways to take courageous steps in our lives or our businesses, and speak to an audience we've never spoken to before, or say we're not going to set boundaries with our family or move on from a painful experience. So all of those are ways that the values really can take a part in our life. So with that, I dropped into the chat what is the annual values review, and I can share screen too, but you're welcome to download it if you want. And obviously it's the beginning of the year, so it's a good time to do it, but this can really be done at any time. So here, I don't need the thumbnails. Second. Okay, so the annual values review, here we go. So there is some research that supports that when we attach our values to, let's say, goals or things that we want, there's better results. There's been studies at Stanford, there's been studies here, there's this paper on neuroscience and behavior change, but the research is there. Even with all that research, you hear a lot of talk about values, but not really how to do it. So that's part of what we're going to do today. Now, it takes about 30 minutes, so I don't know that we'll be able to do the whole thing, explain it all in detail, but we could walk through it, and we can certainly, if you guys are up for it, do you want to do a kind of like a little workshop for part of the time today, or would you like to more conversation? I'm open to hearing. I was planning on
Workshoppy.
Workshoppy. Let's do it. Okay. That was my plan, but it's a little different than we normally do on the 11/11. So when we are going back to look over the past, the thing I want to mention too is that we're doing it not with perfection in mind, not with judgment, but really more about awareness and being able to see what happened last year in the context of our lives and what we can celebrate, what lessons we may have learned that we can then put forth and keep bringing them into the next phase of our life. So the first step is to set an intention on why you want to do this. For me, clarity feels good. It could be a statement of what feels good. It feels good to honor myself. It feels good to take the time for self-reflection. So take a minute and write down an intention. You want to practice self-compassion. You want more insight or self-accountability. There isn't a right answer to this, but you also may use mine, which is clarity feels good. It just does. So take a minute there. Who would like to share an intention that they wrote? I shared mine, but anyone?
I think for me, I didn't really have a chance to fully write it down, but with what I've been, going through in terms of changing my circumstance, relationship, I think self-care, as we've all spoken of, is
Yeah.
completely important, and that involves for me accountability. Accountability. What have I done to contribute to a relationship, kind of a business project, or anything on which I undertake? I need to be accountable for what has happened in the past, and then moving forward, how can I look at my contribution, positive or negative, and how to move forward, take that as a lesson, I guess,
Right.
and move forward. So I think self-care for me involves self-reflection and being accountable to myself, really, to be quite honest, and also what I propel to the outside world and those that I might be helping, or moving away from, people that don't really help me in that self-care journey, I guess.
Right.
And so I think some of it might be moving on from people or things or places, and being accountable for my contribution or not on those things in the past, and moving forward how to do it maybe differently.
Right. And that's exactly right. So I would encourage you, because we talked about this, write that down. You were saying you hadn't written it down yet. So write down
Yeah.
self-compassion, self-care, and accountability. Those are perfect. Thank you for sharing that, because that's how we honor ourselves and learn and be kind to ourselves in that transformational experience. That's what this is. That's what we're talking about, is transforming ourselves year to year. The new year is kind of arbitrary, right? So we get this opportunity to take advantage of that. So the next step is actually writing down your core values. Now, for those of you who actually kind of have worked through either the core values quest, which we're offering in March again. So I encourage anyone who's interested to take it again, or to take it for the first time, join us. Well, you'll hear more about that in the coming weeks. Write down your set of core values. And I would suggest between 5 and 7. And I call it a set because it's important to note all of them, not just one or two. Oftentimes one or two can get overused, so the full set is really important. And if you need more clarity around that, come back next month or reach out to me directly and we can talk about it. Because being able to name what your core values are is an important part of being able to live them. The vagueness, when we don't know what they are, makes it really hard to know if we are or are not in alignment. That sounds obvious, but we don't really talk about it. So how do we know? So take a few minutes to write them down. And again, it doesn't have to be perfect. Do the best you can. If you don't have 5, use the ones that you do have. And I'm going to give you another minute. Say we need more time than that, or do you think that's about it? We're not spending a long time identifying them here. This is really just to write them. To identify them is a deeper process that we go through. So that's why I'm not like, you're just supposed to get it if you don't know it. Do the best you can. And if not, you can use any of the words that you've heard already today that people have talked about, whether that's honesty or integrity or self-compassion or self-care. Those are all wonderful values. There really isn't a good or bad value because they're how we show up in the world. It's about alignment or not. Okay. So in lieu of time, I'm going to move a little bit quickly today. So rather than do the whole year, because it can be a little, you need more time individually to do that. We'll do just the month of December, because a lot of times we do this kind of work in December. And so people don't get to really assess their December and what that was like. And December is a big month packed with a lot of opportunities to be in and out of alignment with our values. So I encourage you to do the next 2 steps with just the month of December. And the first thing is to remember what happened in December. I don't know about you all, but I tend to forget. So you can go back and look through your photos if you want, look at your calendar and go back to the early parts of December. Where were you? What were you doing? Who were you with? What events did you go to? And be able to jog your memory. So just go back to the month of December. So I'll give you, I guess, 3 or 4 minutes to do that for photos and calendar. And if you have an iPhone, you can go into your photo library and click months. And that way you'll be able to see just the month of December if you didn't know that. I'm doing it with y'all. Do you need 2 more minutes or? Give me a thumbs up. How are we on time? Anyone give me a thumbs up if you want more time or you're good? Good. Looks like everybody's working. Okay. All right, I'm going to give you all one more minute because the next part is still reviewing, so you'll be able to just do it from a different angle. Is everyone good with that? I see a thumbs up from one person, maybe? Okay, good. All right, thank you, Constance. So the next step is you're gonna look at what you remember, what you went through, your photos, your calendar, even your social media posts, if that's where you express put a lot of things out there. And you'll note your celebrations, your lessons, your gratitudes, the opportunities that you've said yes to, the moments you said no, the moments you had that difficult conversation. And it doesn't have to be in your photos or calendar. That's just for you to kind of remember. But, you know, I send a really difficult text and had a conversation with someone about something that was really difficult. And that's not going to be on my photos or my calendar. But I was reminded of it when I went through both of those. So that can go on here too, because that was both a lesson and a celebration in speaking up for myself, which in this theme of self-care is really an important part of my self-care, is not being a doormat and I've had to learn how to do that. That's not something that's come easily. Thank you, Coach Constance, for that. She's helped me a lot with that. So this next step, just you can jot down what some of those are. And it's not about being perfect. I'll just write the celebration of writing that text, of following up on that phone call for something that felt difficult, writing that story, posting on Facebook. That's not one of my favorite things to do. Making that call, setting a boundary with my kids, saying yes to things. I often would say yes to some things and no to something else, and have it reversed. So I won't keep talking. I'll let you work for a little bit. And I'll give you another 3 minutes to do that. Okay, that is 3 minutes. Now, those two exercises are really just to get your brain going. It's not about having a comprehensive list at this point, because the real work is in the actual values review. This is more to remind yourself what happened. And as you can see, as you go back earlier in the year, it's going to be a bit further away and you're gonna be like, oh yeah, I forgot I did that. And you'll have more opportunities, because it'll be harder to do this when you can't remember what happened in your year. So that is the purpose of those 2 steps. So as we move on, and because I just am mindful of time, I would love to hear from you. So maybe everyone will come back next week or next month, and we'll be able to talk about some of the goals we set through this, because I don't have enough time to do a lot of sharing yet. But I do want to hear about your celebrations and lessons and gratitudes as well. So to do the values review part, I've developed 3 different ways to approach it. And when you download this document, there's a brief description of each of them in there, but then each of these then clicks to a Google Doc that will be able to, I'll be able to show you, which you could then download. And I'll stop sharing this one and I will share the other one. So there are 3 different documents in Google that has a more detailed and examples of how to go about each of these. But for today, let's see. We can, well, since this one is called the area map, so we can do this one, or I like doing the harmony wheel, so I'm going to do the harmony wheel. I like all of them, but the harmony wheel is fun to say, so I'm going to do the harmony wheel. So the harmony wheel. So you click on the harmony wheel. And I'm going to share this with you guys. Was everyone able to do? You don't have to do this right now because I'll be doing it with you. But if you want to go back and do this later. Is this right? Yes, the harmony wheel. Okay. So this is the harmony wheel. And basically, you're going to put your value at the center of a big circle. And you're going to put different categories, which I've articulated later. And you're going to see how that value was alive or not in that particular area of your life. So here's what it looks like. So let's say your core value, Terry, may I use your value of honesty? Okay. So if you put honesty in the center, basically you're going to look at these different areas of your life and see how honesty lived or didn't in those areas. So the work you just did is going to help remind you what happened in December. So we're just talking about December. So honesty, body. How was I honest in the area of my body? So if I was doing this, I would write about, I took walks every day. I played pickleball. I did yoga, and I did that pretty much every day. So that was the way I was honest. Where there might be a gap, if I'm also being honest with myself, was when I really enjoyed the cookies at this party and then didn't feel so good after because of the sugar. So the honesty is not to judge myself for it, but the honesty is to be rigorously honest and say, okay, that maybe didn't serve me as well as it could have, but I'm at least acknowledging it. So then I would go on to relationships. Okay, was I honest in my relationships? And then I would do that was I honest in my mind? Was I honest out in my words and voice? Was my thinking honest? Right? Was I honest in how I pursued knowledge for myself? So you get to interpret these however works for you, per se. But it's an opportunity for you to look at each value. And this is why this part just takes a half an hour, because it's an opportunity for you to go through, and you don't have to rack your brain on it for long. Like, how was I honest with my money? Oh, yeah. Did I invest in the right thing that I was honest about? Did I return that when I got undercharged for something? Did I return that piece of something from the store? It doesn't matter what it is. Did I borrow something that wasn't mine? Things like that. And how was I honest with my fun? Did I have any fun? Did I say something was fun that wasn't fun for me? So now these are topics that I believe are helpful to the harmony of our lives, but you can adjust them. If the word money doesn't work, it could be, you could add work. So you could add to this if you want, or you could add in relationships, you could break it down. You could break it down to family or a romantic relationship or colleagues at work. So you can play with this wheel, but essentially these are typically the categories that affect us deeply. How is our spiritual life? Were we honest about the self-care we took? Or did our self-care look like something else? Now, what you'll do then with this is you'll do each value. So if one of my values is honesty, I'll do all of them for honesty. And then the next value, maybe that's self-care. So how did self-care look in context to my body? How did self-care look in my relationships? So you start to see how you get to assess each value in these different ways. And so for me, what came up, excuse me, I'm gonna take some water. One of the things that came out for me for last year was one of my values is creativity. It's about thinking outside the box with vision and imagination. And it looked different last year. I did a lot of writing. I had opportunities to think, but I didn't have a lot of open space. And for me to think outside the box with vision and imagination, I need time. And a lot of my time felt like it was like a checkbox. I did this, I did yoga, I did this, I did this, I did this. And I need more open time to and some of it's just having, children and dogs and things that I take care of, a house. But for me, that was where one of the bigger gaps was in my year last year, was being able to and I had a lot more fun actually last year, and I had a lot more play than I had in the year before. So it wasn't that the year was missing anything. It was that, oh, I also need to introduce this piece, because I felt it. I couldn't put my finger on it. But as soon as I did this with my value of creativity, it was clearer to me, because I love to paint, but my area for painting is actually in this she shed I built, which is full of my kids' clothes that they're reselling. So it's become its own thing, and that's a project. And so I want to come up with another solution to be able to paint again, not for anything more than the pleasure of being creative and thinking outside the box and being allowed to play. So that's what was revealed to me here, that to be in my alignment of creativity. And that's going to help with my writing, because I did a lot of writing last year. It'll help with these other areas when I can express myself in this other way and not do it as a have to or judgment that I wasn't doing it. More just open to possibilities in the year to bring in more time and space for that kind of thinking. And so any questions about that, or does that make sense? And I created this document so you can, if you click on the harmony wheel in the, what I put in the chat, in that annual values review, you'll go to this document and you can print it, and you can print this last page. So I printed out multiple sheets of this for myself to do, which I can show you. And that was real, that's where I don't know. So mine look like that. Does that make sense? Can you see that, or should I can stop sharing? Is that easier to see? I know it's reversed, but that's basically what it looks like. And I put the date on it there. And so I did so this was when I did creativity, so that's when so there was a lot filling in there, but some of it was that's where I got the awareness. And that's why I like the harmony wheel, because it's about harmonizing all of these, right? And sometimes and I don't know enough about music, so I'm not going to be able to talk about it, but you're going to have different things are going to be louder and other things are going to be softer. And the harmony is being able to turn the dial up and down on different aspects of our life to be able to do that. One of my values that was really on fire last year was connection, which is amazing. That's so important to me. And with the connection, because I'm introverted, I'm an introvert that likes social things sometimes, is connection is really important to me, but also time to have that open space to create and play. And it could be 45 minutes. It doesn't have to be, 5 hours. I want to go back to the values review because there's an important next step. So after you do that, I already started working on talking about what comes next. But so you can do all of these, you can pick one. So the first one is the area map, where it's the reverse. You pick an area in the center and you start to talk about how that's like your area of focus. Like, oh, I really want to focus on work, or really want to focus on my relationships. And then you look at your values according to that area. The harmony wheel we just discussed. And then the freeform download is basically stream of consciousness, writing with your values top of mind. And you just start writing with these prompts there. And each of these has their own separate PDF that you can download if you want. So once you've done that, and maybe we'll talk about this, go back to this in February, because I think it's too important not to have a longer than 5-minute conversation on. This is when we set our direction for 2024. This is when we have the opportunity to write our goals and aspirations, and the goals that are right for us, the goals that are values aligned. When we do that, we're going to be far more apt to do the things we want to do, because we're so clear about why we want to do them. We're so clear about the importance of doing them. And as I said in the beginning, the research shows us that values really help with our motivation. When we connect a goal to our values, it has far more weight to it, and our incentive and desire to do it becomes really intrinsic. And it doesn't mean it's not hard. There's still other things we need to do. We still need our good habits that help us do it, but the motivation to do it is stronger. So yeah, I'm gonna have to take some steps and have some difficult conversations with my kids and all of that to get some painting area back. But the motivation for that is really crystal clear. And I don't have a lot of energy around it, because it's something I know and want to do and will happen. And it doesn't have to happen immediately. So when writing goals, there is an acronym that's used often that I found helpful. And that is that when you know what, I'm not gonna, do you want to talk about this now, or do you want to talk about it next month after you've done the other piece? I've given you a lot of information, and I'm concerned about going further right now with this. It's up to you all, though. We have about 7 minutes. It might be nice just to chat for a second. And then
I would like to hear the goals acronym.
Okay, great. So the goals acronym is SMARTER. And it's in here, it's in the booklet that you'll have. the annual values review. And it's when you write your goals, you make them specific. So I want to paint 45 minutes. I want to paint, once a month or something like that. I want to paint, and that they're measurable. 45 minutes is a time. So it's clear, it's measurable. I can say, okay, I'm going to, if I was a painter for life and I wanted to have a certain number of paintings, I could say I want 5 paintings by the end of the year. That it's actionable. Okay, yes, I'm going to be able to take action steps towards painting. Is it relevant? Yes, because it brings me joy. It's relevant in my life. I'm a creative person. The more I create in one area, the more creative I'll be in others. Is it timed? So that gets to be measurable too, right? So I want to do it I want to paint 45 minutes every month for the next year. And I want to paint on wood, and I'm going to buy this and hopefully have 3 paintings or 1 painting. Even I could say 1 painting. It doesn't, the thing that feels right. Like, I don't want to say I want to do 10 paintings and then feel like I'm not measuring up. So you want them to be realistic in that regard. That's the relevancy, the realistic stuff. And the timed is that it's within a certain time frame, like once a month. The ethical is the value piece, where it's attached to my value of creativity. It's attached to my integrity and because that's one of my other values. Being able to paint, it's attached to my value of flourish, because when I'm painting, I'm blooming and blossoming more in other areas. I just feel good. And then is it revisable? So if I start off very enthusiastically and say, I'm going to paint 10 paintings this year by painting once a month for 45 minutes, and I'm going to do it in the back house, and we're going to do this and that and the other thing, and I get to like month 3 and I haven't done 1 painting yet, I can revise it and say, I'm going to not try and paint 10. I'm going to do 3. And I'm going to really focus on 3. And if I'm doing 3, that means a painting every 3 months. And so you're just more able to meet your goal because you've broken it down with the awareness that if it's not the right goal because you were a little bit ambitious in setting it, you can revise it. Now, I did not come up with the acronym for SMARTER. It's out there. Sometimes people change the words around. I've heard that it could be relevance. It could be, I said the word earlier. There's all different ways of what you want to, realistic is the word I was thinking of. There's different words for that. So if you look up SMARTER goal setting, you'll find that online if you want to do more research on this particular aspect of it. But really the point is values-based goals. So for me, creativity is an area where I really want to do that. And, but I also want to finish the writing that I'm doing. So I want to make sure, so I'm going to write a goal that's specific, measurable, actionable, relevant, timed, ethical, and revisable. So it's going through each of those and using your values to help identify what those goals are. That's really the biggest difference here than some of the other goal setting that's coming out. That when you do the other steps first, your goals are coming out of your own awareness of your values, which is why it's really important that you know that your own values are yours and that they're the right ones for you. Because if you're going to base your goals on it, then you're going to want to make sure that they're the right ones, which is what we do in our workshops and quests and things. So, and I'm happy to help anyone or support you in any way possible. We can come back in February and talk about our goals, but also those of you who have been through the program before, I go live every week in the community at 4 p.m. on Wednesdays, Pacific time. So once you've gone through the quest or the inner compass process or or the Discover Your Core Values workshops, then you can come and check in. So if you do the annual values review in the next week and you want to come next Wednesday at 4 o'clock, go into the community, look under our weekly core values check-in and RSVP and come. The link is all right there. And we get to talk, we can talk about this in detail. It's a 30 minutes and usually there's only 1 or 2 people there. So it's a great opportunity to go deep and get some support around things like this. And if you want to learn, go through the process, just reach out to me too. And look for the quest that's coming soon. So the core values quest.
What is the quest about?
The quest is going to be, it's the core values quest. So it's basically you're going to go on a quest for well-being by understanding and naming your core values and beginning to integrate them. So you name your values, you make sure that their values are yours, and then you start to integrate them because you have a clear set. And you get confidence, you get direction, and ultimately the well-being that comes from knowing what your values are.
And how long does it take?
We're still setting the dates, and
Okay.
I think it's gonna, but I'll keep an eye out in the community and in for my emails to see, because I want to do something that's everyone can come to and participate in. So it'll be on Zoom though at this point. So, but thank you for asking. Are there any questions? And if not here, come next week on Wednesday at 4 p.m. Pacific time and ask then. But any final thoughts before we go? We're right at noon. I don't want to go too over, but we covered a lot quickly here today. Any questions or thoughts?
I appreciate you sharing this. This is a great prompt or manual.
Thank you. Thank you for coming. I'm so glad you were here. It's nice to be able to do this with all of you, and we can support each other in doing this because it's a little different than what most people do. Any final thoughts before we sign off? Because we're right at 12. I respect your time.
Thank you.
I'm so glad
Was
you're here.
jam-packed.
I know.
Thank you.
It really was. But you can download this and then start to do it at your own pace.
Yeah, great. All right. Thank
And
you.
yeah.
Have a good year, everybody.
Yes. Let's soar in 24.
Soar in 24. Great.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to go. I thank you very much. It's always great to see you.
Thank you for being here. All right. Anyone, I'm going to stop sharing.